9:17 on the morning show with Jeff and Will. We are back on this fine, sunny Monday morning. And joining us as she does around this time every Monday morning, all the way from the Rockland County Business Journal, it's the editor-in-chief herself, Tina Traster. Good morning, Tina.
Good morning, everybody, on this gorgeous day. How is everybody over there?
We're doing well so far. Things have been pretty exciting this fine Monday morning, and I'm glad to hear you guys are doing well at the Rockland County Business Journal. How are things in the business world?
Let me add to the excitement, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Going to try to cover 3 stories in my short amount of time. First one being, just to set this up as a prelude, you know, in Rockland County there are some large parcels whose fate just hangs in the balance. You know, we continue to talk about the HNA site, or the former IBM site on 9W in Palisades. Big question marks hanging over that property. Letchworth up in Stony Point, you know, 2 developments shot down there. The one that we wrote about just this week is the last waterfront parcel in Nyack. And the folks of Nyack and the development community for a long time have been saying, what the heck is going on with that piece of property over there? This is a nearly 4-acre lot at 55 Gedney Street. And as anybody who was alive and around up to 6 years ago remembers what a struggle it was for a developer and an architect to get the approvals that they were looking for, because they needed a text amendment for Gedney Street. They wanted to build a condo project, a waterfront condo project on a former contaminated site. It started out being called TZ Vista. It was later named Tidewater. And now I think it's just generally the Gedney Street project. The long and short of it is that even though the developer, Bill Helmer, and architect Drazen Kakovic eventually got what they wanted and brought a plan to the village, and that plan was signed off on, the pair of them have been caught up in litigation with one another. And the site has just sat fallow. Just empty, and just nothing going on there at all for 6 years. So the news, and partly why we wrote about this, and this is important, is that now their approvals have lapsed. And so their land use approvals have lapsed. So this gives pause to, well, what happens next on this site? The mayor, Don Hammond, essentially said they're going to have to start the process again, and that the developers would need to submit a new application to the land use boards. And again, if anyone remembers what that was like for them to get the approvals in the first place, you know, one can understand why this is just going to be an exhausting process. It's hard to know now where the court is going to go with the pair of the two, the developer and the architect, have been at it for the longest time, you know, accusing one another of failure for their contractual obligations, breaches of fiduciary duty, withholding information, self-dealing, and then accusations of it's you know, anything you can throw at each other is before Judge Amy Puerto. We're going to have to wait and see where this leads and what ends up happening to this property. You know, its value to a prospective developer, while these the point about the approvals, while the approvals were intact, had these developers tried to sell this property, there was at one point they had an offer for over $14.5 million. Now with the approvals lapse, that's really probably greatly going to devalue the project, because somebody's going to have to start all over again. So that is just another very large significant piece of land in Rockland County. And just, you know, one more layer about this is the Nyack, well, everybody is talking about housing, and this was not affordable housing. This was going to be market rate housing. But everybody's talking about housing, how needed it is, particularly apartments for younger people, empty nesters, and to keep breathing life into a village like Nyack, which needs that kind of population to keep growing in order to support its retail and its economy. So that's why a stalled project on the waterfront matters. Unless there is any question, I will move on to story number 2.
Of course, by all means. I want to make sure you get all the stuff out to our good listeners out there right now.
All right. Number 2 is I just wanted to let everybody know that the Rockland County poll workers will finally be earning a little bit more money, and actually the fees that they get for primary and election day have finally been brought up to par with neighboring Bergen, Bergen, New Jersey, Westchester, Putnam, Orange, and Dutchess.
Huzzah!
Sorry?
I said huzzah!
Huzzah! The Rockland County Board of Elections raised the rates for poll pad, ballot, and voting machine inspectors from $200 for the day to $300. Now, this is still, these are 15-hour days. You have to get up with the roosters, long day, couple of lunch breaks into the evening. So it's hard work. I don't know that anybody does it strictly for the money. We interviewed somebody who, had felt that it wasn't fair that Rockland County was so subpar as it compared to all of those other counties that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. It had not been keeping pace. And finally, just last month, they voted to raise up the rates from $200 to $300. So that brings in the rate in line with most of the counties except Westchester, which pays $350, and Putnam, which gives $325 a day. The poll site manager also has a little bump from $225 to $325. So the last thing I wanted to say about that is that they are still looking for poll workers. Typically, the county recruits 730 poll workers for 61 sites across 300 election districts. And if you go to my story, there's a link to the Rockland County Board of Elections. If you should find yourself with that sort of free time and kind of interest in this great American tradition, where we presumably perpetuate our democracy. So, poll workers, a little bit more money for your pockets.
There you go. That's I'm sure they're happy about it.
Well, they were unhappy about the disparity. And,
right.
And it was brought to my attention. And the interesting thing is that little bit of research that we did turned up a happy surprise. And so just so everybody knows, Rockland has finally made itself on par with others. And that's a good thing. And like I said, I don't know that the extra money is what it is that motivates somebody in the end of the day. But the point is that they have changed it up and brought it up to speed. Huh. And finally, I wanted to mention, which was my favorite story from last week, in Nyack on July 1st. We are going to see the opening of, I would really say it's the first independent bookstore in Rockland County, at least to open up for a long time. It's really the only one of note. There's a gentleman from New Jersey, and he's going to open up a bookstore called Big Red Books. To understand where that comes from, read my story. His name is Richard Fulco. He's from New Jersey. He's a longtime writer and poet and an educator. And he's going to be taking the space where the old rock shop was, which recently moved, and we also wrote about them expanding. And, hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought the phone clicked off. Yeah, and it just, just an independent bookstore. I mean, I can just tell you that I could see the social media just explode into a feast of love and appreciation and excitement over the prospect of an independent bookstore. Independent bookstores are just the antidote to mind-numbing big box bookstores and the Barnes and Nobles of the world, and then you've got Amazon and that online competition. But bookstores endure because they speak to something that's primal and good and necessary in a world that is often feels big and overwhelming and personal. And so this gentleman's opening up this bookstore on July 1st, and I think that he will be certainly very welcomed into the community, and I think it's important for the community, and by that I mean all of Rockland, to be supporting an independent bookstore. Really, these are the kind of stores that really do drive a local economy. They create buzz. He understands that a bookstore is more than a bookstore. He's planning to do readings and events and get involved in the community and everything. And I opened up the story with I'll sign off on this idea, but I opened up, if anybody recalls, You've Got Mail, one of my favorite movies. So when Meg Ryan's character, Kathleen Kelly, is sitting in that superstore, the Fox Books, Fox, remember that? And she hears a woman ask the employee if they sell the, quote, shoe books. And the employee had no idea what this customer was asking for, and she types up, and she says, Noel Streatfeild, and she rattles off that Noel Streatfeild wrote ballet shoes and dancing shoes and skating shoes and theater shoes. I'd start with ballet shoes, it's my favorite, and skating shoes is completely wonderful, and it's out of print. And it was just, it was like a very, very, the scene said everything about the contrast between what we expect from the personal service of a mom and pop and, what we often encounter in a big box.
Oh, well, fair enough. That makes total sense. Now, before you go, though, how was the first coffee with the editor last week, or is that coming up tomorrow?
Yeah. That was last week. That was wonderful. That was really wonderful. And actually, we're going to go back again to Roasted on June, and I want to say the date is the 7th. And I'll remind everybody again when I come on next Monday. And also, this is published, but we ended up having about 10 people come down. And you know what's funny? The poll worker story that I discussed this morning. Mm-hmm. That's how I learned about that issue, because somebody came down to talk to me about it.
Fantastic. And if any of our listeners out there right now want to talk to Tina about any news stories, make sure to attend the meeting on June 7th right now, we're saying, at Roasted. We'll get more information on that, and she'll remind everybody as we move forward. But if anybody else out there right now wants any more information on Rockland business economy as a whole, the best place to get it is the Rockland Business Journal, Rockland County Business Journal, wherein you can visit their website, RCBiz, that's B-I-Z, rcbizjournal.com, or you can check out their Facebook or Twitter page. Just search Rockland County Business Journal. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining us as you do every Monday at this time. We do appreciate it. We hope you have a great week, and we'll speak to you next Monday.
Have a lovely week.
You as well.